All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Adrien Beaulieu. I'm a senior project advisor at the CNEA, which is the European Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. We're basically a new agency that was created to support the management of programs related to the Green Deal. And in particular, we're now managing the LIFE program. Now, as you may have heard, the new LIFE program now includes the Clean Energy Transition sub-program, which is basically the continuation of market uptake activities that were previously funded under the energy efficiency part of Horizon 2020, where most of the projects that are presented today are funded. So if you've got any questions about the LIFE program, don't hesitate to visit the LIFE stand in the virtual fair this afternoon. And then there's an info session at 2:30 where you can learn everything about the upcoming calls for proposals. This session is part of the strands that's related to innovative solutions to finance energy efficiency and renewables. And basically what we're looking at here is how we can make sustainable energy investment just as attractive and standard as a car loan for banks and investors. And yesterday we heard about different mechanisms that allow us to outsource the investment so that we can reduce the risk, we can standardize it. A lot of it being based on ESCO types of contracts or insurance or energy efficiency as a service. Now today we're going to look at quite a different perspective. We're going to be focusing much more on banks and investors. And in this first session, we're going to look at the massive challenge of home energy renovation and the role that banks can play in that challenge. Or the other way around, we're going to look at how energy efficiency is impacting the balance sheet of banks and what it makes sense to adapt. Now, let's be clear. For me, I think that renovation of buildings is very much a debt-focused challenge. And so that's why the role of banks is central. And so today with us, we've got Luca Bertalo, who's the Secretary General of the European Mortgage Federation and the European Covered Bond Council. So Luca is going to present to us a flagship initiative, I think we can say, for the banking sector, which is the Energy Efficient Mortgages Initiative. Luca, the floor is yours for 30 minutes. After that, we'll have about 15 minutes for questions and answers. Please keep yourselves muted during the presentation. But if you've got any questions during the presentation, don't hesitate to put them in the chat so that I can pick them up at the end of Luca's presentation. So Luca, floor is yours.
Thank you, Adrian, and good morning to everyone. Before starting, allow me to say a few words of thank you for the kind invitation to be with you this morning, but also to the support that CNEA is offering to the private stakeholders. Those kind of projects have been always very important for us to mobilize private stakeholders toward a common scope and a common objective. So we, thanks to the Horizon 2020 project, we have been able to mobilize a large group of stakeholders. We represent more than 2,000 banks in the European landscape, but also other stakeholders that have been plugged in our progress, in our project, only because of the Horizon 2020 project. So I would like to thank the European Commission for the support and to put in place this project that is giving room to good ideas to improve and integrate the single market. So thank you very much for your kind support. I have the pleasure this morning to present our initiative on developing an energy efficiency mortgage in Europe. This initiative started with the first program, which was called EeMMAP more than 5 years ago. And over the years, I've collected a new Horizon 2020, and every single project is helping us in making very small but very important concrete step forward towards an energy efficiency mortgage market. Now we are reaching the phase where we are implementing this idea into the market, and we are cooperating with a lot of stakeholders, utility, public authorities, and trying to address the issue and the concern of the consumer in order to build an efficient product for the European market. But allow me to start from the beginning of the story. Why an energy efficiency mortgage? Because we believe that the energy efficiency mortgage is one of the key instruments that can help the society to improve a new mentality and consider energy efficiency as a driver of efficiency and reducing cost and improving the quality of the balance sheet of the banks, and at the same time improving the disposable income of the consumer and improving the positioning of investors in the financial markets. So the mortgages is the linking element between the house of all the European citizens and the financial markets. So whatever will happen in this journey between the house and the financial market is relevant for the entire value chain of the European economy. Also, we should not underestimate the size and the volume of this market. The volume of the mortgage outstanding in Europe represents 50% of the European GDP. Every single million invested in energy efficiency can bring more than 18 new jobs in the Union, and with we have more than 7 trillion of mortgages outstanding in the European Union. So it's very easy to understand the potential that this initiative can have for the general economy of the European Union. But this is even more important now with the post-pandemic perspective, with the need of a recovery and a green recovery. We want to build a green renaissance. We believe that now we have a fantastic window of opportunity to convince every single citizen that is the right moment to renovate their house and to renovate this in a green way. Going back to numbers, because it's very important. What is the numbers that we discover in these 5 years of research and intense discussion with all the stakeholders in the Union? Well, we discovered that in the Union, we have to renovate probably more than 200 million of dwellings. Is a huge critical mass that on one hand is a concern because the quality of this building is hampering the quality of life of citizens, but is also an important challenge because the consumption of CO2 and the production of CO2 of this building stock is really hampering the quality of life of every single citizen. Our cities are polluting, and we can do a lot to improve the quality of the air of our cities by convincing every single citizen in making an energy renovation. What does it mean for every single citizen? I would like to give numbers, as I say. We discovered that the average renovation need for a family, it's around 25,000 euros. Every single family should have this amount available to make an energy renovation. We want to combine a support from the mortgage market, so making the mortgage cheaper, but also use all the grants and subsidies which are already in use in every single country in the Union. So combine a public sector support with a private sector support, maximizing the effect of what we consider a renovation wave. We want to make clear to consumer that by investing 25,000 today in their buildings, they can have a massive improvement of the quality of their life, but also a massive reduction of the expenses linked to the house. By making a jump of 2 energy efficiency levels, a family can save around 50–70% in certain cases of the energy cost of the house. So it's an important amount of money, which corresponds exactly, if we consider the life of the mortgage, to the amount of the renovation. So the renovation is almost for free. On top of this, we can discover that the value of the property is changing in function of energy efficiency value. What we discover with our research is that, in average, by making one jump in the EPC, a house can take a value and can increase the value of 5%, between 3 and 5%. But if you reach A or you move out from G, the jump is much higher than this. It's around 10%. in certain case, we are really analyzing step by step the different passages of the value chain and considering exactly what is the consumer benefit, the lender's benefit, and the investor benefit. In this case, the benefit for the consumer is very clear, but the benefit for the lenders is even more important, because by running an important improvement of the energy efficiency of the portfolio of a bank, the bank can be taxonomy compliant, can reduce capital cost, and can improve their capacity to attract investors on their balance sheet. Investors will have a real benefit because the quality of their investment will be, first of all, taxonomy compliant. Secondly, will be much more secure in front of the next crisis that probably is always very close to happen. So investors are very much comfortable in investing in energy efficiency asset. Lenders are very much orientated to greening their portfolio because they want to reduce the risk in their portfolio. And consumer, they want to build their house or renovate their house in a way that they can save a maintenance cost and having a better investment for the future. What we are doing concretely? Well, we want to not only build a common understanding of what is a green mortgages and energy efficiency mortgage in Europe and fit this in the capital markets union infrastructure, but we want to build a system which is easy to plug in to the real economy, to small and medium enterprises working for the renovation, also working together with the builders, but also together with the utilities, who can play a very important role in convincing consumer and highlighting the savings in the energy cost. We want also to work together with the public authorities, city halls, regions, province, that can give the confidence to consumer that the energy efficiency mortgages is a solid instrument that can really build a new ecosystem around the idea of energy efficiency. We think that this is the only way to move the European economy to a green revolution. And we need to work step by step on the different phase of the journey of the creation of the mortgage. What we have done concretely is, well, first of all, we are providing legal assistance to all our banks in order to support the challenge in the collection of data and use of data. The major challenge that we are facing is, well, the collection of EPC, so data about the energy efficiency of the buildings, which are not yet available. If you think, for example, in a market like Italy, only 9% of the mortgage market is covered by EPC. Investors are challenging the quality of the EPC that are not comparable among the different countries. And the public authorities are collecting EPC in different ways. In most of the European countries, they have a centralized center of collection, so a hub. But in some countries, very important countries, we have a regional hubs, which is making the action of the banks much more complicated. And they are not minor markets. Are Spain, are Italy, are Germany, are Belgium. So major mortgage markets are actually facing a real problem in collecting data that can allow the market to be alphabetized and allow investors to use energy efficiency data in their balance sheet. We are technically speaking with all the system providers to help us in fixing and removing all the bottlenecks in the collection of data, and also allow the banks legally to use this data for their investors and allow the investors to do due diligence and use this in rating agencies, in methodological approach, and using this for any kind of investor scrutiny that they would like to do. It's a really market revolution and should be done step by step with a lot of technical work behind the scenes on system providers and on legal steps. Moreover, we are discussing with the largest utility in Europe, E.ON. They have an umbrella of 50 million of clients to analyze the consumer behavior. We are running consumer research country by country because mortgage market are still very national. And we are building consumer research in the different areas of Europe to make sure that we understand the different culture of the market. So we are running consumer research in Germany, in Sweden, in UK, in France, in Belgium, in Hungary, in Spain, and in Portugal, in order to understand what are the critical needs for the consumer and for the investors. On top of this, we are trying to create an IT system that can help the banks to make more visible to the consumer the real gain. We call these simulators, our software available in the banks, which will make simulation of the works of renovation for consumer and allow them immediately to understand the return on investment, how much they will spend for making a renovation, what are the priorities that have to be addressed in a renovation work, and what are the gain or the savings that they can have from this renovation. Making evident to all of us what is the return on investment is the critical element of the entire story of the energy efficiency mortgage. We want to make clear to everyone that every minute that we wait for making a renovation is a minute waste that costs money to all our family. The opportunity cost of not moving ahead is higher than the cost of renovation. We are also mapping country by country the subsidies, the grants that are available, and we try to leverage on this to allow people to make deep renovation and to make in the isolation works together with other kind of works that can help the family to manage the renovation. We also believe that the European Union should be opportunities for every single citizen. We should not forget that every single renovation work should be affordable and accessible to all citizens, cannot be a privilege reserved only to families with a high level of income. We should build a system which will be allowing every single family to enter in this mechanism and allow the banks to create the critical mass. Banks can reach every single family, and when a family is looking for money for making an investment, it normally goes to the bank. So we are in a critical place, and we have the responsibility to put in place a critical system that can reach every single corner of the European Union, from Riga to Lisbon, from Dublin to Athens. We should also create a system where the bank is incentivized to support the small and medium enterprises working for making renovation. The banks can ask a guarantee to this small and medium enterprise. They can ask to provide the data, which are very important and so crucial for investors. And they can finance small and medium enterprise to energy efficiency competence. What is missing, what we discovered in these 5 years of research, is that we need to improve training, professional training and competence into the market. We need specialized people ready to support this ecosystem with competence and knowledge. And we need also to develop and use digitalization as an opportunity to reduce costs for consumer, for banks, and for investors, and improve the quality of transparency. So we think that the essence of the Green Deal or the EU Next Generation is in the Energy Efficiency Mortgage Initiative. We want to transform the mortgage market as a pillar of the single market, being at the center of the capital markets union, because then afterwards banks can issue green covered bonds, green securitization, green bonds, and can really be functioning in educating investors towards green investment. I really believe that Europe is in a leading seat at the global level. We have the privilege to be the first one to be moving in this territory. It's an uncharted territory, and we need to work together with every single stakeholders. And the spirit of this initiative is to use the experience and the knowledge of all the stakeholders that are around us. We are building also a platform for discussing. We call this the Greenbauhaus, where whoever has an idea that can be helpful for the banks can come, speak to us, and propose the idea. And we will use this idea potentially into the market and trying to bring solutions to consumer, to lenders, and investors. That's the spirit of our initiative. We are also building very clear regulatory recommendation. The regulatory aspect is fundamental. How the European Union will treat green mortgages, green bonds, is a fundamental element of the benefit the banks will consider in entering in this space. If the 7,000 banks in the European Union will all enter in this space, if 7,000 marketing departments will invite consumer to save money by using a green mortgages, we can have the critical mass that is the only solution for making the renovation way a success and the Green Deal a success for the entire European Union. This is the basic concept that we are putting forward. Allow me to conclude that we believe that a new economy should be built, a new concept. Economy, the word economy comes from the Greek word oikos, house, and nomos, rules, law. We believe that the house is the right place to start a new journey and convince every single owner in the union, owner of the house, landlord, that we can make the difference. By spending only 25,000 euros, we can improve our house, we can halve the cost of maintenance, we can increase the value of our house, and we can improve the future of our kids by making a better world. That's the spirit that we are proposing to our members. And I'm very pleased to say that we are having a lot of follow-up. A lot of our banks are building and establishing market hub at national level. We have the case in Denmark, where we have an additional project, always financed and supported by the Horizon 2020 project called EEMMAP, that is developing in the Nordics a nice hub combining financial expert with other kind of expert that can help banks in analyzing the consumer behavior and bring the right solution to the right consumer. We are also having hubs in Italy, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Germany, and in Spain. So it's nice just to see that our members are really believing in this idea, and they are finding their way to adapt our European idea to their local markets. But it is not only a European story. We are having hubs in Australia. We are discussing with our friends in Brazil, in Canada, because we want to take the leadership, and we believe that our best practices should be implemented under the Basel Committee Agreement. The Basel Agreement is the fundamental element for all the banks in the world, and we believe that if we get Basel right, we can really help the European Union, but also all the other regions, to transform this crisis, this pandemic crisis, in a fantastic opportunity to create a recovery in the post-pandemic scenario, a real green renaissance. And again, from the building, we can bring back the beauty of our cities, we can improve the quality of life, and having a real microeconomic gain for every single citizen. Also you that are listening to this kind of this presentation, I'm sure that you are considering that by investing 20,000 euros, you can improve enormously the quality of your house. And that's just the beginning, because energy efficiency is not the only component. We have to discuss about anti-seismic, so the quality, the structure of the building. We have to discuss about quality of the air, consumption of the water. So that's just at the beginning, which will improve the insurance market, which will improve the quality on how the public authorities communicated with the private stakeholders. So please follow us. If you are interested, we have always place for your ideas, and help us in building a green renaissance. Thank you, Adrian. I would like to give you back the floor and answer to any question you should have for us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Luca. All right, so that was quite a lot of things at the same time. Maybe just a first general question. I'm buying a house in Belgium at the moment. Where do I go? Do I call you, or do I go to a website, or do I go to my bank? How does it work concretely?
Concretely, we are building an energy efficiency mortgage label, which is a website where you can go and you can find all the European banks providing green product. As a consumer, you can compare the products. So you will discover maybe you have a better service in Spain than in Portugal. You can put pressure on banks because it will be a way also to create a competition on green product. This website will give you also the opportunity for you to select between a green mortgage or a green loan, because maybe you don't want to have a mortgage and you want to have only a few thousand of euros to change the heating system. So by entering this website, you will see the product offer. You can contact directly the bank, get an offer, and it's even more important because the banks will be obliged to disclose their portfolio, which is green. So investors can immediately see the structure of the portfolio of the banks. Now, we started this initiative only at the end of February. We have already 27 banks with more than 35 products already online. And yesterday, allow me to share this big news, because for us it's a big news. An important bank, the second largest bank in Denmark, has already completed the entire portfolio, and they are posting the Excel online. This is a bit a revolution because it will allow rating agency investors to study the market. We have 70,000 mortgages available online where you know the EPC, you know if there are single houses, detached houses, you know exactly the loan to value, you have a lot of information. And hopefully by the end of this year, all our 27 banks, that hopefully will be much more, will be disclosing this data. So it's a transparency opportunity for consumer, for lenders, and for investors. But more importantly, it will be a sharing of knowledge. Everyone will see what the others are doing and probably will copy what the others are doing, hopefully.
So I think this is really, you're really showing how greatly investors and the capital markets have understood the opportunity of energy efficiency in mortgages, what it means and why they have to go towards it. And I think the sustainable finance taxonomy is also probably pushing a lot in that direction. Now, if we look at it from the consumer's perspective, I mean, what is it that the consumer gets? I mean, we're in a pretty low interest rate environment. Is it really that they're going to get a much cheaper interest rate, or what is it that they get? So, and if I'm a consumer, you're telling me that you're giving me a simulator and you're telling me you're going to save 50% of your energy costs if you do this and that. What happens if that doesn't work? Aren't you afraid that people are going to turn against you?
Yeah, that's a risk. I mean, we are trying to, we want to build an ecosystem around the mortgage where the benefit will not be the reduction of interest rate, but will be in the service, in the package. So we are inviting banks actually to propose a green package to people, which will be green services. So we are promoting, for example, the cooperation between utilities and banks, because this will create a better package. We think that the elasticity of the interest rate variation is quite low, in the sense that, I mean, no one of us will change the bank just for a reduction of a minimal reduction of interest rate, because they are so compressed in this moment that is not an element of real benefit for the consumer. But what we understand nowadays is that the consumer are very much looking for advice, for solution. I think you raise a very important point. What will happen if I do a renovation and the renovation doesn't have the perform that we are expecting? That's a critical aspect. We try to find solution on this. The European Union, they provide an interesting contract, which is called EPC, but it means energy performance contracting. So which is guaranteeing the result, which can be used. That is one option. But also what we would like to engage a small and medium enterprise in guaranteeing the works for the banks. Because, I mean, they will be engaged, they will have volumes. Something that I've not said is that we believe that if the entire banking system will follow our indication, we can free a lot of resources for also research and innovation in the private sector. Companies will be incentivized to train people to make innovation because they expect volumes of investment. So this expectation can really trigger this kind of research that probably will compress the cost of material, will compress the cost of the labor work, which will be much more competent and much more trained. So we should look at the micro dimension, but also the macro perspective, which is very important. And I think you are right. We are testing in two areas in Scotland and in the province of Trento, how the banks can get guaranteed the works. So we are trying to address this issue by engaging the relationship with the local small and medium enterprises and ask them how you can guarantee the works for consumer and for the banks. That's, I think, a critical aspect, but we are still working on this, Adrian, and it's still in the making.
Okay, we've got a question from the audience. Oh, we've got two questions now. So the first one is, what are your thoughts on the ratio of housing prices and renovation costs in Europe? And I would add also, you know, how do you see the trend and how does that impact your work on the energy efficient mortgage initiative?
Well, since we are all close at home, we see in every single European country a massive improvement of renovation loans. So we believe that, I mean, the quality of the space where we live has become a really important factor for every single consumer. And we see this in the numbers in the banks. Everyone is investing in their house, is renovating. So we think that if we look at the last 12 months, the trend has been very positive in all the countries, from Greece to Sweden. What is concerning is that we have to look at this new trend in a systemic way. We have to be very careful not to create an inflation of material costs or improving transparency for consumer. Inflation is a real problem that can really be a speculative bubble in this. So we have to be very careful to keep this under control. And every single actor or player of the value chain should be very careful in providing transparency. Because also all the fiscal support, which is coming in a lot of countries. I mean, we know that the Green Deal is mainly on green and digitalization, will be arriving directly or indirectly in the real estate sector. This can be a risk of inflating cost, and we have to be very careful. We have to be very wise and build transparency in all the passage in the value chain. I think that's a challenge for all of us. I mean, I don't know if it's the answer to the question, but I mean, yes, we see an increasing of the trend, but we have to consider all the aspects of this increasing of the trend. I think that we see, I mean, if you look at the economists in every single newspaper, we are speaking about bubble, is a bubble or is not a bubble? I mean, the question is there. I mean, of course, we have to be realistic. We have to think of where the market will be in 5-10 years time. We have to have a long-term perspective to this issue.
We've got another question from Andy Deacon. Hi, Andy. And is asking whether you see a role for insurance or performance guarantee from banks to underwrite or guarantee energy savings. This is a bit what we were discussing just before, or I mean, so you're saying you're going to investigate that, or would that always lie basically with the consumer?
No, I think this is an extremely important point. There are two aspects. I think insurance can play a very important role in ensuring the works, but also guaranteeing the mortgage for the banks. We are already discussing this with Genworth, for example, is a major insurance in the sector. They came to our Bauhaus to present their offer, and they're already cooperating with few banks in the pilot phase banks. So it's very nice that we see, for example, the most important bank in Italy is working with them to ensure the works in renovation, which is allowing, I would say, the fragile part of the society to have access to this renovation loan. So it's very important from a social point of view. But I think there is another important role for insurance, is that in several regions in Europe, our house cannot be insured for climate risk. So if we improve the resistance of our houses to climate risk, they can be insured and they can be much more resilient to the next crisis. Just to make an example, in the region of Cologne, which is a lovely region in Germany, but the rain, the river can actually put at risk most of the housing sector close to the river. So by engaging the insurance in our discussion, we can really do a lot. And then thirdly, but not less important, insurance are major investors in the real estate. They are long-term investors. So they buy covered bonds, they buy securitization. So they have all the interests. So we need to keep insurance very close to our initiative and to stay close. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, and maybe to complement that, for those interested, we had a session yesterday on an energy savings insurance, which is delivered. So it's more for SMEs. It's more on technology measures rather than whole building refurbishment. But there's definitely activities developing in that sector, and also in just a general building renovation. We've seen that already for a few years, so it's very interesting that now that is being integrated in the whole ecosystem of home energy renovation. One of the questions I also had when listening to you, Luca, was this question of the data on the energy performance certificate. I mean, what is your view on the confidentiality of data when it comes to that? I mean, you're saying, well, we should have access to this data, but what does that mean? I mean, should everyone have access to my my energy performance certificate, or how? What is the approach of the project on that?
Yes, I mean, sorry for the noise. I think yes, that would be the magic solution, Adrian. I think that it would be nice to have a system in Europe where you can download your EPC from internet and use it freely. This is already the case in the Netherlands, for example, and it's already the case in other countries. In others is not, and this is creating a huge problem for users. But the fact that the EPC is not important for the banks is a problem, because I mean the banks could really push consumers to collect the EPC and share this with the bank. Allow me to make a very silly example. In the EPBD, is requested you have to disclose if you have or not have an EPC when you ask for a mortgage, when you buy a house or you rent a house. But you don't have to tell which level is it. So this is a completely useless information, because I mean, you have a yes or no that doesn't tell you if it's G or A. It means that in all the database of our banks, we don't have this information. It's a secret between the consumer and the notary who signed the act. So this is, I think, something where we should reflect as a European Union on how we can improve this level of information. It's also, allow me to say, a fake secret. I mean, it's just hampering the capacity of the market to help the consumer to improve the EPC. So I think the EPBD revision is an opportunity to put some tricks that can help the market to manage this big problem that is EPC. Also, regionalism sometimes is hampering the capacity to have a single market, in the sense that we cannot have 20 regions using 20 different IT systems to collect the same data. I mean, this is simply a bottleneck for banks who are operating in these markets. This is the case for Italy, but also in Germany, Spain, and those are the largest markets. So if you block the largest market, you create a systemic problem. So I think we should reflect all together on how we can fix this kind of problems.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Luca. I mean, I think this presentation really gives a great picture of what the banking sector is now starting to move. And you know, as I was saying, we've got a lot of, there's two main avenues of investing in energy efficiency. It's project finance. We're talking about specialized, very technical investments, specific contracts, and so on. And then you've got a massive giant, which is the banking sector and the mortgage sector. And I think what we're seeing is that that giant is now moving, and it's taking a long time to get moving, but when it starts moving, it's really going to make a massive change, I think, in the home renovation programs across Europe, and complementing everything that is happening otherwise through public funding and through specific project finance vehicles and so on. So I think it's really super positive to see that. We're going to close this session here. So I'd like everyone in the room to give Luca a virtual round of applause. I know you can't hear, but I think the audience was really interested to see this presentation. I'd like to invite those of you interested in the specific question of home renovation to follow also the strand on home renovation, but I will be speaking in the next session at 10 o'clock on integrated home renovation services, where we're going to be presenting an article that my colleague Christophe Milin and I just published on integrated home renovation services, which is a perfect continuation to the discussions we're having, because we're looking at basically the whole customer journey and where different actors come into play and how they can basically streamline the customer journey, what they can do, and also a number of things where it's difficult to do everything. So where things start, the boundaries between different models of intervention. So we're going to be discussing that. I would encourage all those interested to also, of course, follow this session. For those who want to stick to the innovative financing solutions, you can stay on this trend. The next session will be moderated by my colleague Daniela Bachner, and it will be looking at real estate investors with a very interesting project called CREM, where they have developed basically all the metrics for investors to improve their integration of energy efficiency of buildings in the real estate sector. So if there are no more questions from anybody, no more statements, Luca, thanks again for this great presentation, and please stay posted with the Energy Efficient Mortgage Initiative. Lots of things coming up in the coming month.
Thank you again for your time.
Thanks to everyone, and have a nice day. Bye.